Ari Lewis Show.
All right, welcome everyone to today's episode of the Ari Lewis Show here on IsraelSportsAndNewsRadio.com. Thank you for joining us. We are very excited to have a very special NBA Finals edition. The NBA Finals will be starting Thursday, July 4th. And we're very excited to have on the line right now from OMG Poetry, Mr. Joe Robbins. Joe, welcome back to the program.
Thanks so much, Ari. It's great to be here.
Yes, indeed, and just reviewing our playoff predictions, we both had the Cavs come out of the East. I thought the Spurs would get here. They got knocked out in the first round. Of course, very close 7-game series. You, though, thought the Warriors would pull this out. Why were you so confident in their abilities to make it to the NBA Finals?
Really, I think more than anything, their team mentality and style of play. You know, we know that to make it to the next level in the NBA, and by that I mean to go from a great regular season team to actually doing something in the playoffs, you need star power. You need to have a supporting cast around that star, usually a second superstar. And you need to be able to play strong team defense. And the Warriors have all of those things, and arguably out of any team in the playoffs, they have the best mix of those things. Atlanta was a great regular season team and a good playoff team, for example, but it didn't have a single superstar. And their supporting cast and their great team chemistry wasn't enough to do it when they had injuries. With the Warriors, you have Steph Curry, the MVP of the league. You have Klay Thompson, an all-star. You have Draymond Green, who will become a max player this summer. And then you've got David Lee and Andre Iguodala. David Lee doesn't even play. He's an all-star. And Andre Iguodala, also a former all-star. And that doesn't mention any of the young guys or Andrew Bogut, who is one of the top defenders in the NBA. So I think just that mix of team chemistry that really allowed them to do what they did all season long, continue it in the playoffs. This team won 67 games in the regular season. It never seemed fazed by pressure. Never lost 3 games in a row the entire season, and that's really continued through the playoffs. And they beat a really good Houston Rockets team, 2nd seed in the West. They beat them in 5 games. It was a hard-fought series, but it was really never in question.
Let's talk about the rest. Both teams are going to head to the NBA Finals. You mentioned the 5-game series against the Rockets. The Warriors were able to wrap that up. Cavs get the sweep against Atlanta, so a lot of rest going in. Who do you think that is a bigger advantage for? Which team?
I think it's a wash at this point. You know, originally I thought it was going to be for the Cavaliers because of Kyrie Irving's injury and lingering injuries. I thought it would be good for them to rest. I think if both teams originally, when they heard that they wouldn't be starting till June 4th, they probably would have liked to move the series up and played earlier. But the way things played out, you know, Kyrie Irving and the Cavs need the rest for him. And then Klay Thompson with his concussion. Now, he's expected, the latest reports are for him to be cleared by the NBA after completing its concussion protocol and recovery. He's expected to be cleared tomorrow. He was able to practice a little bit today. So I think the rest, while normally with 2 teams rolling the way they are and 2 teams this prepared, the rest could actually be negative for both teams. 2 of their stars and arguably their 2 biggest supporting players are being helped by the rest. So I think it'll end up being a wash, and I think we'll probably see some rust in game 1 from both teams, but they'll get out of it quickly. They both are playoff hardened at this point, and they have their eye on the prize, and they'll get to the finals and be ready.
Okay, let's talk about the Kevin Love situation. The Cavs are not going to be able to have him for the NBA Finals. They haven't had him for a while. And there is a lingering rumor that after the season's over, he's going to the Lakers. How much do you think that affects Cleveland heading into the NBA Finals, this whole cloud of possibilities regarding their big man?
I really don't think it'll affect them. Love said today that he hopes to be a Cav in the fall. Who knows if that's true? Who knows when it's time for him to opt out, whether he actually will go and take more money, go to another place like LA that has a young core with the room to sign a lot of people. But I think at this point, the Cavs know what they need to do. They've played without him for a while, like you mentioned. He's going to be there. He's going to be a cheerleader, and he's going to be rooting them on. So I don't think it'll be a distraction, especially with LeBron leading them on the court. LeBron, as we've spoken about before, goes on a social media blackout for the playoffs, and really mostly cell phone blackout too. He has ways to reach his family and for them to reach him, but he really turns everything off because he's so focused on just winning, and not just on game days, but the entire playoffs. When you've got that guy setting the tone, your team will be ready to play. So I think whatever's going on with Kevin Love, the team doesn't want it to be a distraction, and when push comes to shove, it won't be a distraction. They'll be ready.
Let's talk about some of the comments LeBron made regarding Steph Curry, asking how do you stop Steph Curry. He said, it's like me, you can't stop me, and you can't stop him. There seems to be a mutual respect between LeBron and Steph Curry, at least what we get from a media perspective. Do you think that's legitimate? Do you think LeBron has actual respect for Curry, who won his first MVP this season?
I do. I think you put it the best possible way it could be put. It's a mutual respect. We're talking about the best player in the league this year in Steph Curry and the best player in the world in LeBron. They each look up to each other in different ways, in different facets of their game, try and emulate each other. You could see during All-Star Weekend the amount of fun they had together, even though they were on different teams and playing, Steph Curry in the West, LeBron in the East, but they clearly have that mutual respect, and they realize they're both unguardable, and they're both the leaders of their teams, and they're not afraid, to step up. And I think another thing that sets them apart is they don't go looking for the limelight like some other superstars. They are no question in it all the time, but it's born out of their play. When LeBron has a thunderous dunk that immediately is going to be on the SportsCenter top 10 plays, or when Steph hits a big shot or has one of his crazy handle moves leading into a no-look pass or a shot that you also know is going to make the top 10, those are things that the whole league and the rest of each of their respective teams can appreciate. That's something that each player brings to the game, and you don't see that very often. There aren't very many players in the NBA who can do that, and arguably right now the only two players in the NBA who can do it on a night-in, night-out basis are Steph Curry and LeBron James. So I think there's definitely a mutual respect. They won't let it get in the way of their competitiveness. There's no question about that. They want to win, and they want to take the title from the other guy, prevent the other guy from getting it. But when you're the best in the world going against the best in the world, I've never been in that position. I know you are in that position with your show, but I would assume when you're the best and you're surrounded by greatness, you can appreciate that greatness if you're humble enough to and care about the right things. And I think that's what we see and hear from LeBron and Steph Curry on a regular basis.
Kind words from Mr. Joe Robbins from OMG Poetry. Again, this is the Ari Lewis Show here on IsraelSportsandNewsRadio.com. Thank you for joining us, giving a preview of the NBA Finals. Joe, let's go to the two head coaches, both rookie coaches, and Kerr did not win Coach of the Year. Very close. He was second place. I'm sure you thought he should have won it. I definitely think so. Talk about that aspect of this matchup. These are two first-year guys, NBA head coaches, going into the NBA Finals.
Yeah, both are phenomenal coaches. Kerr, like you mentioned, runner-up in the Coach of the Year voting, greatest winning percentage ever for a rookie head coach, took records from Red Auerbach, a bunch of the greatest young and all-time head coaches. He did things that they never had accomplished, and also what he led the team to do. So it wasn't just the records as a coach, but the way that they earned that 67-15 record, and really the way he came in after the situation with Mark Jackson, which was a disaster by a lot of measures in terms of how he was relieved of his duties as coach, and Kerr came in, united everybody, and took them to a new level. Very, very good coach. And then you've got David Blatt on the other side, who we know well from coaching in Israel and coaching in Europe, but watching as fans of Israeli basketball, who is a winner and has been a winner every single place he's gone. He's won a championship and at the very least taken the team to unprecedented levels, like when he was coaching the Russian national team. So I think you've got also two very bright coaches with great coaching trees that they learn from, that they've taken everything from. And another interesting story, which is a fun one and won't come into play at all. I'm sure we'll hear about it once the finals start. It won't affect anything, but a fun one. David Blatt was in line to become Steve Kerr's top assistant and actually associate head coach for this season, and he turned it down to take the Cavs job. In the preseason, when things were getting ready to happen for a long time, it looked like David Blatt was actually going to be on the Warriors, and then Kerr and Blatt would be coaching together. But of course, as history would have it, just too great of an honor to have the chance to be the first EuroLeague coach ever to come over directly into a head coaching job in the NBA, and David Blatt has proved that he deserved it. A lot of detractors, a lot of people say, oh, it's LeBron, oh, it's this and that, and nothing to take away from LeBron or his greatness in any way because he is that great, but David Blatt is also that great of a coach. The winning he's done, it should be an extremely well-coached finals, and it's the first time that two rookie head coaches have ever met up in the finals since the first year of the league, when by default any coach that made the finals would have been a rookie head coach. So that's a pretty incredible stat with the history that this league has, that we're getting two rookie head coaches who deserve to be there and really will have an impact on the series for the better.
And some other new things that will occur in the NBA Finals, whoever wins, the Cavs have never won an NBA championship. The Warriors have, but that was in the 70s, so you're going to have a very new NBA champion, even if it's the Warriors, someone that hasn't won a title in over 35 years. So let's talk about that aspect. You have probably the two best players in the NBA in the finals, but you don't have the big markets, all due respect to where you're from. It's not L.A., it's not New York, it's not Chicago. How much do you think that will affect the ratings, given the fact there aren't big markets, but given the fact that they're the two best players in the league in the NBA Finals?
Great question. I think the ratings won't be affected for the reason you mentioned about the star power in the finals. Definitely not big name markets in the same way. I think the big thing, though, is that the Warriors very quickly this year, usually we don't see it happen in professional sports in a single season, but the Warriors, because of their style of play, because of Steph Curry, the Splash Brothers, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, all of those different factors, they've become a lot of NBA fans' second team. And casual fans who don't have a team that they root for have adopted the Warriors. When I say second team, I mean NBA fans of a team in a different market who have adopted the Warriors as, if my team can't be in it, I'm glad the Warriors are and I'm rooting for them. And I think that speaks to the star power. And then there are people who are going to watch because LeBron James is such an incredible talent and a polarizing figure. There are a lot of people who want to see LeBron fail, a lot of haters who it's really unwarranted, but we know that they exist, so they're going to be watching for that reason. Then all of Ohio is going to be watching because Cleveland's ready to win a championship in something finally, and their drought that you spoke of, but really in all of the major sports in Cleveland. So I think even though it's two small market teams, I think the ratings are going to be really good. It's two teams who play really exciting brands of basketball. It's two great storylines. It's two stars who everybody can like and everybody should like based on how they carry themselves off the court and how they play on the court. And it's new. It's exciting. No disrespect to the Spurs, a lot of the teams that we've seen. But I think the NBA was ready for some new blood, whether it was the new face, the new look Rockets, or the Clippers, Memphis, some of these teams who we've seen but hadn't made it through to the next level. This year, it was guaranteed that that was going to happen when the Western Conference Finals was the Rockets, Warriors, and the Eastern Conference Finals was the Hawks, Cavs. The two best teams out of those four made it. So in a lot of ways, this is the best matchup anybody could have asked for.
Yeah, I'm looking forward very much to this matchup. I think it's going to be a very exciting series and be very competitive. Let's talk about the LeBron legacy question. This will be his fifth NBA Finals in a row, something Michael never did. Magic, Larry, you have to go back to the Celtics in the 60s. However, if he loses these finals and the Cavs are the underdogs, his record will be 2 wins, 4 losses in total of all NBA Finals. So just discuss LeBron's legacy. Obviously, he's going to have 4 seasons to go, but a lot of people think his best basketball is a bit behind him. So what do you see as far as his legacy if the Cavs lose the NBA Finals of 2015?
I don't think it should affect his legacy at all. I understand why people are saying it and asking the questions, but none of those 5 teams would have made it to the finals without LeBron. And I think that's what we need to keep in perspective here. It is an incredible feat to make it to the finals 5 years in a row, something that we haven't seen in our lifetimes. And you mentioned the players, the all-time greats who never did it. So just the fact that LeBron was able to do that, and I think 2 and 3 definitely doesn't sound so good on paper, but the 2 is 2 championships, and those are 2 championships that he will have played the biggest part in winning. And again, without him, they wouldn't have had the chance to lose those 3 championships. So I understand why people are questioning the legacy, or at least raising that question, if not questioning the legacy. But I think the legacy is secure. LeBron is one of a kind. He'll go down in the top 3 ever. We'll see where in that top 3, and maybe that's something that will be affected by the amount of championships he wins. But his legacy is set. He's one for the ages, win or lose in 2015.
Yeah, one of the things I point out, look at Cleveland without him, look at Cleveland with him. Last year they were a lottery team. This season they're in the NBA Finals, and with him, when he was 22, they went to the NBA Finals. And I don't know at Jordan at 22 if he could have taken a team of Mo Williams as a starting point guard and gone to the NBA Finals. So LeBron legacy, as you mentioned, top 3 all time. Could be number 1 when his career is over. Again, this is the Lewis Show here on IsraelSportsAndNewsRadio.com. Our guest is Joe Robbins. We're talking about the NBA Finals set to begin on Thursday, the 4th of June. Let's talk about some matchup issues. First, let's go to the bench. The Warriors are clearly the deeper team. Do you see a strategy of Kerr trying to get the team in foul trouble, try to get the Cavs in foul trouble because they know Cleveland doesn't have that deep of a bench? So what are your thoughts about strategy as far as using the depth of the Warriors bench to their advantage?
This is going to sound like a cop-out, but I'm going to give the answer that I think Steve Kerr will give when he's asked about it. I think the Warriors are going to do what they've done all season. I think they're going to play their brand of basketball. They're going to let defense lead to offense. They're going to be efficient. They'll work to limit their turnovers. And when they need to, if they do fall behind or want to stretch it out, increase the lead by mixing things up, then they'll go to the bench and they'll play small ball like we've seen them do throughout the playoffs. But I really don't think there will be that many adjustments in terms of looking at the Cavs bench. I think Kerr will want to keep the team comfortable, and he'll make adjustments to make sure that they have enough guys to throw at LeBron James. That's an obvious adjustment that needs to be made, and I think that's where the depth will come in handy. But I don't think fouling will come into play as much as it did last series, where Kerr resorted to hack-a-shack against Dwight Howard and Josh Smith. I think it'll be more of the same in terms of the regular season and the other playoff series, where the Warriors use their depth as an added bonus, but not a strength that they work to exploit, or vice versa. I don't think a weakness that they work to exploit for the Cavs with their shorter bench.
So we know that the stars of the teams, Curry, LeBron James. Let's talk about the X factors. Who are the X factors for each team, and why do you think so, and how do you think they'll factor into the NBA Finals?
I think Harrison Barnes is the X factor for the Warriors. Draymond Green has to come out and be huge and play like himself, especially since he'll be covering LeBron. So I put him right there with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, LeBron, Kyrie Irving, in terms of the guys who need to come out and do what we expect them to do. So I'm going to go with Harrison Barnes as the X factor. His worst game of the postseason by far. I mean, he was 0 from the field. Maybe his worst game all season was the Game 4 loss to the Rockets. He came back and in the fourth quarter almost single-handedly sealed the win and the blowout against the Rockets in Game 5. He was fantastic defending. He was hitting all of his shots. He was throwing down his dunks, displaying his athleticism. If he can do that, if he can give the Warriors 15 points a game, even 10 points a game, if it's the right 10 points and he's being efficient and doing everything else, I think he's the key. In terms of the Cavs, I have to go with J.R. Smith. We know what he can do. We know how streaky he is. We know how crazy he is. I think if he can get hot, I don't think it'll be enough, but I think he can be the perfect complement and what they need. But he's going to have to get J.R. Smith streaky hot. He can't just have a 15-point game like Harrison Barnes can. I think J.R. Smith will be needs to be the X factor, but he needs to do it by shooting a crazy percentage and averaging 25 points a game, which he's capable of. You just never know which JR you're going to get.
Yeah, that's certainly going to be a big telling factor in the NBA Finals. How he shows up could actually determine who's going to win. Let's talk about defense on Curry, because I imagine Irving will be assigned to that task, but Irving's a bit banged up. So if you're David Blatt, you're coach of the Cavs, how do you go about defending Curry, even though LeBron says it can't really be stopped? Someone still has to physically put a body on him, obviously. So how would you go about defending Curry?
Yeah, I mean, that is a great question. I think obviously you have to double team, but the problem with double teaming is we all have seen Curry move and know how he can move, and maybe more importantly, know how the rest of the team can shoot the ball. So you can't really afford to double team. So I think the real way to do it, you have to put a bigger guy on him. Whether that's, we know Smith doesn't have the defense that he has the offense. So whether that's Dellavedova or Iman Shumpert, they're both bigger guards. They aren't as quick, but Shumpert can defend. But the question is, again, we were talking about the injury to Irving. Shumpert's also not at 100%. They said he's going to play for sure game one, but he's slowed down also. Well, a healthy Iman Shumpert might have trouble with Steph Curry. An injured one definitely will. So I agree with you. I think it'll be Kyrie Irving, and then I think since we know he's not well, you throw some bigger bodies at him, like an Iman Shumpert, Dellavedova off the bench, and maybe you switch and have some of the wing players try and cover Curry also. But that's what I'm the most interested in seeing, because that's where he's made his money. I'm interested in seeing what you do, because like LeBron said, like we know, Curry isn't just another offensive player. He's unstoppable unless he's cold, in which case it's not the defense, it's him. So I think that will be key, is seeing specifically how many bodies they throw on him, but also how they stop him from hitting the open man when he is double teamed and trapped.
Again, this is the Ari Lewis Show here on IsraelSportsAndNewsRadio.com. Our guest is Joe Robbins from OMG Poetry. We're talking about the NBA Finals set to take place Thursday, June 4th. And, Joe, let's talk about home court advantage. Warriors have it. They have 67 wins in the regular season, one of the best records of all time. And I know that you've grown up as a Warriors fan and you're from the area. Talk about the feeling right now that's going on in the Bay Area. How psyched are they? This is, again, the first NBA Finals for them since the 70s. I'm sure that place will be popping and buzzing. And if you just touch a bit about what everyone's feeling in the Bay Area regarding the Warriors making the NBA Finals.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I thought the two most telling sights from the Game 5 win, or post-game win, were how long the fans all stayed in the arena after the Western Conference trophy was given out. They stayed until security said, all right, it's time to go. And then they all went outside, and there were thousands and thousands of people, literally, if not in the tens of thousands. I mean, they might have had the entire capacity crowd, the majority of it out there, cheering. Fireworks were going off. They were all chanting. And I think that really, in terms of how the Bay Area is experiencing this and enjoying this, that is the picture that's worth 1,000 words. The whole Bay Area is behind the Warriors. Every other sports team, professional sports team in every league in the Bay Area has been sending messages and support to the Warriors. All the other players have been at the game. So I think that's in terms of the community, and really the players know, the Warriors players and Steve Kerr know how much this means to the community. The first time in 40 years that the Warriors have gone this far after so many terrible years. And then it translates into the building. And that advantage, the only thing I can think of to compare it to is Seattle and the Seahawks. That's the type of environment that the Warriors fans bring and the Warriors play in, and the reason why they've only lost 3 games at home the entire season, including the playoffs. It's a huge advantage. It's almost unquantifiable because it's such an insane winning percentage, and there are countless games where the team is playing maybe lackadaisically or lets a run happen, and the fans get going and the team goes on a crazy run and the Warriors just explode and blow the game open. Obviously at 67-15, the Warriors were a great team on the road as well, and they won. They had the best road record in the NBA, but nothing close to their home record. So I think that's a huge advantage. And while the Cleveland fans will be rowdy and raucous in Cleveland, there's nothing in the NBA like the fans in Oakland. They call Oracle Arena Roracle, and that's really how it is. It almost sounds like the Warriors are piping in noise at some points, but it's the crowd, and I think that's something that Cleveland is gonna have to deal with, and I really don't know how you do that as a coach, how you game plan for that. It's not like in football where they make them practice in the snow to get ready. I don't know how you account for sound like that, but it'll be interesting to see. That's definitely part of the chess match for the Cavaliers, courtesy of the Golden State fans.
Yeah, I think it may be the loudest NBA Finals crowd in history. The Bulls crowds weren't that loud. San Antonio wasn't that loud. LA wasn't that loud. Maybe Boston 2008, they were up there because they hadn't seen a championship in a long time. But this maybe go down as the loudest crowd in NBA Finals history. Let's talk about a report. There's been some friction in the past between David Blatt and LeBron James, and you mentioned David Blatt doing a great job. There's a story that says that perhaps he won't be the coach next season. There's obviously that famous story where LeBron called his own number when David Blatt didn't want to give him the ball. But we've seen that before. Other stars have done that and said, give me the ball and I'm going to score. So I want to know if the media is making too much out of it. LeBron is saying that. He's saying it's not a big deal. Obviously, if the Cavs lose, some heat's going to go to David Blatt, some will go to LeBron James. But if you just talk about the relationship between the Cavs star player and their head coach.
I think the media is making too much of it. In terms of the relationship, I think there are growing pains with any rookie head coach. And I think, LeBron had to adjust back to Cleveland. Kevin Love never found his rhythm. We could talk about a lot of those storylines from the regular season. They're 2 big trades that brought in new players that ended up really helping the team, but completely changed things during the season when J.R. Smith and Mozgov came in. J.R. Smith, Shumpert, and Mozgov. So there were so many changes that impacted the dynamic and the look of the team. I think for Blatt to keep everything together under those conditions really speaks to the job that he did. Is there a chance he'll be gone if they don't win? There's always that chance, but I think that that's not what LeBron would advocate for. I really think that he and Blatt have a good relationship as far as coach and player goes. I don't know what their personal relationship is like, but on the court, really the only things that have been blown out of proportion have been blown out of proportion because it's LeBron James. And LeBron has even said, we're only discussing this because it's me. If it was anybody else, this wouldn't even be a story. Give the guy a break. So I do think it's the media blowing it out of proportion. And like you said, the biggest one was LeBron saying, give me the ball. It's easy for us to sit here and say that was stupid of Blatt to not call up a play for the greatest living player. But even if it was stupid, like you said, we've seen many times before where the guy audibles and calls for his own play. The superstar does it, and it's get me the ball. So I think it's the media talking about something. Yes, because it can, but I think it's a little overblown. If we take a step back and look at it, yes, LeBron said he came to Cleveland to win a championship, and so did Kevin Love. And that's what every competitive player who's in the league who wants to win does. But I don't think Cleveland fans, being realistic, were expecting a championship in the first year. They might have been hoping for it. Obviously, we all want our teams to win a championship, but that roster on opening day was not a championship team for the Cavaliers. And we saw it. They were a 500 team in January, but they kept it together. LeBron finally got in shape. He wasn't at his best to start the season. And Blatt righted the ship, which a lot of rookie head coaches wouldn't be able to do. And I don't think that he would be getting the respect that he's gotten if he hadn't played a big part in that. I think he's won over the Cavs locker room. I think if Kevin Love stays, that obviously speaks to his faith in David Blatt. So I think he deserves all of the accolades he's getting. He shouldn't have the detractors at this point. He's a rookie head coach leading a team to the finals, and it's a piecemeal team in a lot of ways. Now, it's a lot easier to be a piecemeal team when you have the greatest player in the world, but still, a lot of people could have had this team and not led it to the finals, even in a weak Eastern Conference.
All right, a few more minutes left with Joe Robbins as we're discussing the NBA Finals. Let's go back to the Warriors and talk about Curry, the MVP this year. I'm sure, as you know, you probably saw the story from CBS Sports, is not in the top 50 of paid players in the NBA. 50, truly incredible. Why do you think that is? What do you expect to see from Warriors management as far as a bigger contract down the road? Obviously, they don't want to lose the MVP.
Definitely, yes. I mean, it is a crazy story. I believe that Curry is the fifth highest paid player on the Warriors, which is pretty incredible when you think about what he's done. The reason is Curry had bad ankles a couple years into the league. He had a excuse me, a lot of ankle injuries, ones that were the type of sprained ankle where you're not just missing games, you're worried about surgery and will you ever recover. And as a result, he signed a deal that would pay him in the range of $10 million. For him, it gave him the security. As we know, NBA contracts are all guaranteed money. So getting $10 million a year when you're one ankle injury away from never playing again and becoming Keith Van Horn, where you get tens of millions of dollars to sit on the bench when you wish you were playing, but your body won't let you. For him, it was the security. It meant he would be set for life. And for the Warriors, they were saying, hey, we're offering you a little more than you're worth at this point because we know what you can become. And obviously, he's become that guy for the Warriors, and he will definitely be rewarded. He has a team option for 2016-2017, which the team will obviously do since it's at $12 million. The Warriors will exercise that option, and then that's when the new collective bargaining agreement will come out because of the new TV deal and the higher salary cap, and Curry will then be, if not the highest paid player in the NBA, top 3 with LeBron and maybe Kevin Durant, and he'll make somewhere in the ballpark of $30 million a year. But for now, he is obviously an extremely underpaid player, if you can call anyone making $10 million dollars a year underpaid. But yeah, it was a 4-year, $44 million deal, so it works out to $11 million a year, which the way it's broken down, just under $10 million the first year, just over $12 million the last year to work out to that $44 million. His new contract will see him get $44 million in a year and a half. But it really is pretty incredible that you've got guys. I mean, and this is something that people don't realize, and this is not a knock against David Lee because of what he does bring to the table and what he's done in his past. He's earned every cent of that contract, but David Lee might be the most overpaid player in the NBA right now at $15 million a year, and Steph Curry's the most underpaid, and that's all on the same team. It's pretty incredible when you look at it.
Yeah, it makes me think back to the Suns, the Steve Nash years. Nash wins 2 MVPs in a row, and I believe he was the 4th paid player on his team behind Amari, Sean Marion, and Joe Johnson. So you do have those things happen. Also, Scottie Pippen with the Bulls title years, he was the 5th paid player on his own team. So sometimes these things happen. Like you said, they want the guaranteed money. They want the comfort. They want to know they're going to have money no matter what happens, and that's why you get bad contracts. All right, Joe, last question for you. We've discussed the X factor, home court advantage, stars in the team, the head coaches, the markets, the ratings. I want to know who's going to win the NBA Finals. I know you have a bit of a bias. Let's not lie to the fans. But I trust you're a pretty honest person when it comes to picks. You're going to say it as you think. Who's winning the NBA Finals this year?
Thank you. Yeah, so my unbiased opinion, I've got the Warriors in 6 games. LeBron is LeBron. He's too good. He's too dominant, too dedicated to not win a couple of games. But against a team that we've discussed before in this Warriors team that is one of the greatest teams in history in any year, not just the best team in the NBA this year, LeBron, even with a full-strength Kyrie Irving, won't be enough to win 4 games. So I think the Warriors will win in 6, but regardless, even if it goes 7, the Warriors will be the 2015 NBA championships after a hard-fought series against a very good Cavaliers team that just doesn't have enough yet.
Yeah, I agree. Rarely do you see Game 7 in the NBA Finals. It's on average once every 5 years. We saw one a couple of years ago. And with all due respect to LeBron James and David Blatt, I think the Warriors just have too much. They're too deep. They have too many weapons. And this is just the year, 67 wins in the regular season, the MVP. I think they pull it out in 6 games, but I think it'll be a very competitive 6-game series. We thank everyone for listening to the episode of the Ari Lewis Show. Today's episode here on IsraelSportsAndNewsRadio.com. You can email us at arilewisShow@hotmail.com. And our guest has been Joe Robbins from OMG Poetry. Joe, thanks for being on. Great job as always.
Thank you, Ari. Always a pleasure, and enjoy the finals.
Will do. Again, finals set to begin June 4th. You can find out Joe's work. Go to OMG Poetry on Facebook. And, Joe, any other websites they can go to if they want to check out more of your work?
Yes, so my latest work, a new project I'm working on, Artists Fighting Cancer, where we're uniting artists from around the world in the fight against cancer. So artistsfightingcancer.org to join the movement and the battle against cancer. All
right, good stuff, and continue the good work there. Everyone check that out. And again, you could just find Joe's OMG Poetry on Facebook. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and enjoy this episode of the Ari Lewis Show on YouTube podcast. Be well, and shalom from Israel.